On the Rhythm, the Blueprint series. What if you could explain to your partner why you are the way you are? What if you could explain to your boss or your team why you like doing this task as opposed to that? What if you could find out the same thing about the people you love or the people you work with? In this episode, I ask Dr. Gary Sanchez those very questions. And the reason why I ask Dr. Gary Sanchez is because although he is a dentist by trade, Dr. Gary Sanchez has invested hundreds of thousands of dollars in self-improvement. Everything you could think of, every class, he took it. And he was able to design a framework, a methodology of why people do what they do. And he found out that there are about 9 different types. We're all a bit of each one of those, but there's an emphasis, without question. And in a world of increasing globalization, how can we give ourselves the edge that we need to be happier, more successful? According to Dr. Gary Sanchez, it's by knowing your why. I opened the interview by asking Dr. Gary Sanchez, for you, what does it mean to know your why?
I believe that when you know your why, what you do has more impact. What you do has more meaning, has more focus, it has more direction.
I wanted to get as clear as possible, as early as possible in this interview with Gary on what a why is and what common answers people give him if he asks them, do you know your why?
And they'll say something like, well, I have 2 kids at home, 2 little kids at home, and I need to provide for them. And so I have to do my job the way that I'm doing. That's why I'm creating this stay-at-home business so that I can be with my kids. And I say, that's a really good reason for doing what you're doing. And that will provide you with motivation. But that's not really what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is, why would I choose you over everybody else who does what you do? So no matter what it is you do, there's other people that are doing the same thing, right? In my day job, I'm a dentist. Right here in Albuquerque, there's over 700 dentists. So why would somebody choose me over everyone else who does what I do? What is that thing, that gift that I bring that would make them want to come see me, buy my product, buy my service, join my cause?
At this point, Gary had my full attention. We live in a world today where there are so many people that are flooding every industry that somebody can think of, especially some of the more popular ones like being a lawyer, being a doctor. How about a pop star? It's so hard to make yourself different when everybody's different. But if Gary had some information that could help with this, I was all about finding out exactly what he's saying he can do to help us figure that out. The next logical step would have been to find out exactly how Gary had acquired all this information to begin with. What source does he have? What investment did he make? Where did he find this secret and why is he sharing it now?
I spent 20 years, Philip, taking the best courses, developing a phenomenal product. Right? I thought what I had was a great product. I had a well-trained team, a beautiful facility, all the latest technology, and I had spent a fortune, hundreds of thousands of dollars, training myself to be able to handle any kind of situation in dentistry. Yet the guy down the street who had done none of that said he was the same as me. How am I going to separate myself from everybody that does what I do? And that's when I heard about this concept of why we do what we do. You see, this really came from a guy named Simon Sinek. I don't know if you've seen Simon's book, Start With Why. As I was looking for the answer, one of my mentors talked to me about Simon Sinek. So I went and I watched his TED Talk. I bought his book. I probably watched the TED Talk 30 times. I've read the book multiple times. And I said, man, this is the missing link. This is what I don't have. But the problem was, as great a concept as that is, it doesn't have any meaning for you unless you know your why, right? How are you going to start your business with your why? How are you going to start your relationships with your why? How are you going to start the marketing, the messaging, the culture of your business around your why if you don't even know your why? So I became obsessed with discovering my why. I actually called Simon and I said, Simon, I need you to help me discover my why. And he took me through this process. He didn't really know how to do it. He took me through this process over like 8 months of kind of trying to go back at every significant event in my life until I was a little kid and see what kind of a pattern we could see. And I kept working with it and working with it. And finally, I discovered my why. And my why, Philip, is to find a better way and then share it. And as soon as I realized that, my life made so much sense to me. Everything in my life has been about finding a better way. I've got lots of patents and products and inventions, all better ways of doing things. I developed a chair for people that sit all the time called the health chair. It's a better way to sit. Instead of you forming yourself to the chair forms itself to you. I started fitness challenges for everyday people, a better way to get in shape. So everything was about finding a better way. So I went back and figured out what Simon was trying to do, and I made it better. Once I figured out how to discover my why, then I started helping other people discover their why. And I started refining the process and refining the process and refining it until I could help someone discover their why in about 30 minutes. And once I could do that, I started getting lots of data. And as I started writing down all these whys that I discovered, I found that there was only 9 different whys. And because I now knew there was 9 whys, I was able to create an algorithm to help someone discover their why. And that's when I was able to create the software program that you took that allows people to discover their why.
So there it was. It started to make sense. I did take the test, and that's part of the reason why I reached out to him, to find out what's behind this test. How is it that a couple of questions could figure it out? Turns out he put a lot of money into this, and he's pretty self-aware, and that self-awareness is simply carried over into helping others. It's interesting. My own results said that I help people make sense of things. And his is to find a better way. Those are 2 very different things. And according to him, there are 9 different types. Even if I know my 1 out of 9 types, I still have to understand what to do with it, how I can apply it. And so I had to keep the interview going until that information became available.
Simon Sinek came along and developed that golden circle concept, right? Why, how, what? Suddenly we could see it. It made sense. We couldn't do anything with it. Became another one of those concepts that just pisses you off. You want it, but you can't have it because you don't have everything you need to be able to do it. So once I discovered the 9 whys, then we were able to actually do it. Discover your why so that you can live your why. And that's when you find your passion. That's when you understand who you are, how you think, what you bring, how you fit, what direction you should go. That's kind of the essence of what the Why Institute does is, we believe there's a better way to understand you, and it comes when you know your why. So how we do that is by helping you discover your why in a very simple and easy way to do it. And then what we bring is a simple and easy way to help you move forward. So your why, Philip, is to make sense of the complex or challenging. So what that tells me about you is you're somebody who's really good at solving problems. You're really good at seeing things. You can take lots of data, lots of information, lots of things coming your way, and you can quickly synthesize it down to that thing that's keeping people stuck or not allowing them to move forward. And you're able to help them understand it and see it so that they can move forward. So you're that guy that helps people move forward by helping them solve their problems, which is exactly what this podcast is about, right?
Exactly.
That's why you did this. So you can take complex things like figuring out what to do with your life, figuring out what direction to go, figuring out how to be creative. And you're going to break it down for people so that they understand it, can move through it so that they can move forward. Now that is step 1, is your why. Step 2 is your how. And step 3 is your what. So once you know your why, your how, and your what, that's when you'll have the clarity to be able to make great decisions, to be able to have better relationships, to be able to build a better business, to be able to create your messaging and your marketing for your podcast. I gave you the first step. That's the hardest step, by the way. The course that I offer is your personal why formula course. That's developing your why, how, and what. And I make it very inexpensive for people. It's only $29 because I want as many people as possible to be able to discover their personal why formula, so they can get on the right track, so they can make great decisions. So that's step one, is your why, which you have. Step two is your personal why formula. And then once you have that, then the question becomes, do you know what you want to do with your life, or do you not know what you want to do with your life? Now you're clear on who you are. If you don't know, I have a why career formula, which will help you pick the right career where you get to live your why, which is live your passion, and the lifestyle that you want to lead. If you live your passion, but you have a terrible lifestyle, how's that going to work for you?
You live your passion, but you have a terrible lifestyle. So you're saying, let's say, like poor eating habits, poor exercise habits, or?
I'm saying, let's say you want to teach, but you don't even have enough money to survive.
Right.
How much fun is that?
Not at all.
Not at all. What if you have a great lifestyle, but you have no passion?
If you have no passion, then you won't even want to get out of bed.
You got it. So you got to have both. That's a critical thing to think about, Philip. You've got to be able to live your passion, and you've also got to marry that with the lifestyle you want to lead. Because if you have one without the other, it's not much fun. When you have both, that's when you can really be you. That's when you're going to enjoy your career. You're going to enjoy your life when you have both of those. So if you don't know what you want to do, I can help you get on the right career path. If you do know what you want to do, and you want to apply your personal why formula to your business so that your business becomes a reflection of you, then there's a process for doing that as well.
So Gary's promise grew bigger and bigger as the interview went on. Not only could he help me figure out the most important thing, which is why I do what I do, but now he's telling me that he has the how and the what available and could even be tailored to business if I wanted. Not just a career and like a path that I could imagine, but specifically, he could help me tailor it to my business. The question remained, has anyone tried this already? Has anyone actually invested in this? Does Gary have any success stories that could back up these promises that he's bringing my way, that were filling me with hope, that were exciting me and making me think, maybe there is a way to figure out why I am the way I am. Maybe there is a way to apply that kind of information once I have it.
Yeah, I've done this now, Philip, with I've helped over 30,000 people discover their why, and done this with over 500 businesses. It's been a fun journey.
30,000 people and 500 businesses. Wow. Who have been, and there's no such thing as a favorite really, but there have to have been some where you may have been fans of them and you came along and you guys got to work together. Is anything like that happened?
I guess the most successful person I've ever worked with, both financially as well as relationship-wise, was a guy named Todd Rupert, who was the CEO of T. Rowe Price. I don't know if you're familiar with T. Rowe Price. It's a very big investment firm. When he took over T. Rowe Price, it was a $12 billion investment firm. And when he retired a couple of years ago, it was a $565 billion investment firm. I don't even know what $565 billion looks like.
Wow.
But it's one day I got a call from him. He was referred by another gentleman and said, hey, I've done a lot of things in my life, but I don't know why. I don't know why I've done what I do. He says, I own 1,400 companies. I've been the CEO of T. Rowe Price for, I don't know what it was, 25 years. And so I took him through the process of discovering his why. And his why was to contribute to a greater cause, to add value and have an impact in the lives of others. And that's what T. Rowe Price became. That company became a reflection of what he believed. And so I asked him one day, I said, Todd, why do you feel like you've been so successful? And he said, the reason I think I've been so successful is because I personally interviewed everyone that works for me. And I have 6,000 employees. He said, they have to meet with me before we hire them. And he says, I know something about every one of them. And when I can help each one of them do just a little bit better, then we'll all do a little bit better. And that's been the secret to my success. And if you meet him, if you look him up online, you see his picture. I remember when I was going to speak with him on the phone, I looked his picture up and I thought, man, this guy, he must be a tough SOB. He's the head of that company, an investment firm. He's got to be tough and firm, and he's going to rip my head off if I ask him the wrong question. And when I that's what I thought when I saw his picture. But after I discovered his why and I went back and looked at that picture, I saw a completely different person. When you know someone's why, it brings forward that thing that they want to get noticed for. And when you notice them for that, nothing could feel better. So when I look at his picture now, I see such a nice gentleman that does, after I discovered his why, he said, hey, I need you to work with some of my companies. And I worked with one of his venture capital firms. And after we worked with them, he threw a party for us at his house. And there was the whole organization there. It was a pretty busy party. And I saw him sitting over in the corner talking to the boyfriend of his receptionist that he had never met before, a young guy who I think was a painter or something like that. And I thought, how many billionaires do you know that are going to sit in a party and figure out how he can help the boyfriend of his receptionist? And that's the kind of person he is. And so people love to work with him and for him. And that was a great experience for me to see that particular why of contributing and adding value to other people was the most successful and still has been the most successful why that I've seen as far as being a CEO.
Now, I'm not a billionaire. I'm not a 15-time billionaire. And I'm certainly not a 565-time billionaire CEO. And yet, I somehow went through life without being willing to invest $29 or even just answering these 9 questions to figure out what my why is, why I do what I do, and to be able to achieve a higher level of happiness and success. If someone like the billionaire that Gary told me had worked with him decided to go and invest, even if it was just a little bit of time, or in his case, a little bit of his money, and really little bits of his money, then why couldn't I? It was at this point that I began to understand that knowing my why could help me shave years of crawling in the dark to figure out what my purpose is, why I do what I do, what's going to inspire me, all the things that I usually complain about when it comes to why I decided to leave a job, or why I'm not as successful as I want to be, or why I'm not as happy as I want to be, or why people seem to misunderstand me and I can't figure out a way to help them understand me without having that happen. Here was the answer sitting right in front of my face. This was the moment that I knew that this episode was going to be worth editing so that I could share it with you. And that's just one of the 30,000 people that you've worked with.
Yeah, so I used to have to work one-on-one, but now that I have the Why app, that's when I've been able to really have an impact. When people can, so if I look at my email right now, all day and all night, there's people all over the world discovering their why, which just brings a big smile to my face because they're on their way to getting clear on who they are. And when you're clear on who you are, that's the basis for then making every other decision you need to make. But you got to have that first. If you start with one of those personality profiles, and they're all great, DISC and Colby and Strength Finders and all those are all great, but they're not a deep enough level to know who you are. That's how you do what you do, but who are you? I would bet, Philip, that your friends know you're the guy that they can go to when they have a big problem to solve. And the reason they do that is because they know you can quickly synthesize it down. Bam, bam, bam. So you were to go to talk to your friends and say, hey, I took this why thing, and it says that I'm a guy that really is good at making sense out of complex things. What do you guys think? And they'd be going, damn straight, man. That's exactly who you are. That's why do you think we come to you? So if you ask people that know you well, they're probably going to smile and say, I've thought that my whole life. Right? So that's the first step. So if you don't want to move forward and discover your how and your what, at least start with taking the Why app. It's free. And then go talk to people that know you. It's funny. There are people that take it and don't want it to be that. They thought it was something else. They want it to be something else. But when they actually go and confirm it, when they really sit down and start thinking about their life and the choices they've made and the choices they haven't made, and what people value from them, they'll see that it comes true. But the real clarity comes, like I said, when you have your how and your what. I said there's 9 whys. So one of the things that happens in the course is you're going to take all 9 of them, because each of those whys is in you. A certain part of it is in you. You will rank them from 1 to 9. And that's when you'll really see your uniqueness, one of 385 million. What's great about that, outside of career, outside of decisions, is when it comes to relationships. So in your case, let's go back to you, Philip. If you have a significant other or somebody that you're dating or thinking about dating, with your particular why, they may not understand you for the gift that you bring because it hasn't ever been verbalized. So they may start to think, so every why has strengths and every why has challenges. So in your case, some of the challenges that come along with the make sense why is that you're often can be viewed as a know-it-all, right? Somebody who, that guy knows it all, man. I don't even want to talk to that guy. He thinks he knows everything. You're so good and so fast at solving problems that you're usually way ahead of everybody else. And you almost have to dumb yourself down to bring us up to speed with where you are, right? Because you can solve it at lightning speed, but if you can't articulate that to someone else, it doesn't do them any good. So you're so fast at solving these problems that if I don't understand what it is you're doing, I might think, I might go down the negative path. Man, the guy thinks he knows everything. He's always got an answer for everything. What's up with that guy? So when you're able to articulate that to your significant other, they'll see you for the gift that you bring instead of what they may interpret it to be. So it's great for relationships. It's great for understanding each other. Have your significant other take the Y app as well.
And yet again, Gary took me for another spin. I'd always wondered why some people just flat out didn't like me. I know it's impossible to be liked by everybody, but I personally do go out of my way to make as much effort as possible to be liked. I know that has a downfall, a downside to it. But when I look at the spread, it usually has led to a pretty good life for me. And whenever I run into somebody who doesn't, I may not have noticed how much of a know-it-all I may have come across to them. And if it wasn't for this conversation, this interview, where I was investigating the product of the Y app, then I never would have found that out. In fact, Gary went on to give me one more example of how that works in relationships. And then he even had me understand why I began to get into entertainment and everything that I do, whether it's music or podcasting. I mean, I personally really do recommend that you take this. I'm going to go ahead and end this interview with the example that he gives you about the relationship and how a why can affect it with someone that's close to him and his family. And then after that, I challenge you to go check out the Y app.
I have a niece, and she is a teacher. And every year she would take a group of high school kids to Turkey. And so her why was to do things the right way, to follow processes and systems and make sure things are done right. So she knew which airline to take. She knew which flights to take. She knew which hotels to stay at, what restaurants to eat at, what things they needed to see, because she'd been there before and she liked the results she was getting. Well, one year she decides to take her husband. Her husband's why is to find a better way. So can you imagine how that works out? Right? Not so good. Everywhere they went, he would always say, well, why do we have to go there? That one looks better. Or why are we staying in this hotel? That one over there looks better. Always trying to improve things and make things better. And it got so bad for them that when they got back, it was like World War III. They were ready for divorce because they couldn't stand being in the same place with each other. Once they discovered their why, they got to see each other for the gift that they brought. And whenever he started doing his better way thing in a way, in some area that she already knew the right way, she would just smile at him. And he would look over and say, oh my gosh, I'm doing my better way thing again, huh? And they could laugh about it versus fight about it. So it's the same thing with you. People closest to you need to know what your gift is so they see it as a gift instead of as a reason to resent you.
So I came out of the interview with Gary Sanchez, a different human being. And those are the moments that I'm always looking for because it affords me the opportunity to bring that out into the world to you, the person listening. Now, the test itself is only about 9 or 10 questions. It'll take you 15 minutes tops. It's absolutely my highest hope that you at least take the test and see what it says. And if you have any questions, once you take the test, he'll have your email at the very least. So do make sure to use a real email. It's where they're going to send your results to. For me, there has been no higher experience than to discover that my curiosity for making sense of things is actually my gift to the world. I would love nothing more than for you to walk away from this episode with the next step on what it is your gift to the world is. So be sure to visit whyinstitute.com. That's whyinstitute.com. And again, be sure to use a real email address. I'll have links available to Gary's website on my podcast page and on any social media postings wherever you see this. So the next time we meet, you can expect me to have figured something else out that I want to share with you. I hope you enjoyed the story. Take care.